Michael Goldstein wants to know, do Knack's visuals stack up against the other next-gen launch titles?
I think so. I mean, it's got a certain aesthetic that I kind of like. It's a little manga influence. Characters have big eyes and cow licks and things like that. And Knack himself, I think, is a little inconsistent just in terms of what they're trying to present. Like, he looks cartoonish, but the character is written fairly seriously, or fairly flat, I will say. So I'm not entirely sure if the visuals are in line with the emotional content of the game, but I find the visual style fairly charming. What do you think? How do you think this stacks up to some of the other games, Colin?
I don't know. I think you're right in like some of the effects, the particle effects and stuff are things that only PS4 can do. And I think we compare that a lot to Resogun, where people look at this game and they're like, well, it's so special. I'm like, this would blow a PlayStation 3 up if you put Resogun on it. It's not quite like that, where like the voxels and like, we'll see Resogun later, and that game's really shows off PS4 in a unique way. I think there are certain things in this game that definitely indicate that it's not running on a PS3, for instance. But I don't think it's a game that's going to blow anyone away, like those lighting effects in Killzone, or obviously all the third-party games like Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty look beautiful as well and run really well. So, but I think you can see some of you can see like beautiful textures and on some of I noticed in caves like some of the rocks had really nice textures on them. Some of his special attacks when you get the sunstones are really cool. And I think push the system a little bit. But
you see a little bit of this on the mirrored Knack that we're showing here. So this is Knack. He's sort of learned this trick now of making his body up out of other materials. And the first one he's gone with here are mirrors, so he can walk through these lasers. So I'm not quite sure how that works practically. But you come through here, and immediately you just call your relics back, so you can be a big guy and fight. And got to demolish all the crystals that you see everywhere you go. But yeah, so there are some moments where you're asked to do things differently, but you're never sort of given the choice to do things differently. It's always what the designer wants you to do at any given moment. I do like that kind of moment where the camera slows down when you defeat the last enemy in the level. So you switch back to the mirror guy to go through here, and then of course you want to be big again because that matters.
How are those things getting through the lasers? But not that.
No, it's best not to think about that too much, like some of the other elements in this game. And the fighting's basically sort of a one-button proposition. You've got just one general attack button, and you can do the jump attack and the various sunstone powers that you collect from, or that you unlock by collecting the crystals. But my favorite is the TMNT attack here. It never gets old, and it never stops working. But you can see, I mean, even with one attack button, it feels nice to sort of fight with Knack. You get a really a nice range of animations, and it feels very fluid. So you really do feel like you're connected with this character, at least in terms of the overall inputs, and that definitely helps in a game like this.
That's cool.
So here he's in kind of an amalgam of the crystals and the relics and the mirrors. Oh.
Yeah, the game definitely has a certain charm. There's no doubt about that.
One thing that's kind of frustrating, it was not the case here, which is why I noticed it. A lot of the checkpoints are after the hard boss fight, as opposed to right before the hard boss fight. It's one of those things where you feel like, oh, I got to this tough fight and I died, and now I got to play through another 2 or 3 minutes before I get back to that, and then you die again. It's just sort of
deflating.
It is a little deflating, and it maybe I'm not playing this game as well or the same way that some of the testers were, but I find myself dying sometimes right before the checkpoint, and that should never happen.
Yeah, I've seen people at Sony play the game like to show it off and die. So like it's a hard game, and actually that same thing in Japan when Cerny had someone show the game, he's like, the QA tester or whatever often dies right here, and
right,
and it just dies. I was like, oh, it's interesting.
It's nice that they're sort of unapologetic about that, though.
Yeah, it is cool. I mean, that definitely does reek of the old school, but even it does, but it doesn't. Even Sly and Ratchet games were amazing games, but not overly difficult or cumbersome.
Yeah, so that's not. And then sometimes these guys are following you through the level the whole time, and you're like, it's a good thing you're staying one room back because you guys would get murdered if you were anywhere near where I had to be.
These goblins would take you out.
Yeah, so this guy Lucas is a fairly redundant character. He's basically there to be a kid version of the Doctor. It's a little bit confusing. So Knack's explaining here kind of about what it was like to be made up of these different materials now, and it's got a lot of potential. And I would be curious to see if it does well enough for them to make a sequel and kind of improve on some of the things that I don't like about this version.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that as well.
Steve, thanks for showing us Knack today.
Yeah, thank you
Absolutely,
very
you're very
much.
welcome.
We are going to take a quick break, but first, let's give away another copy of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. This one's going to go to Indie Red, who asks, are all launch games available digitally at launch for PS4?
Yeah, so as far as I understand it, and there might be some exceptions eventually, but it'll be very similar to PlayStation Vita, where every game, even if you can buy in store, will also be on PlayStation Network day one from the PlayStation Store to buy digitally. But I don't think there's going to be any price differences yet.
Right.
So you're going to pay $60
Same
for
full
Assassin's
retail
Creed
price,
or for Call of Duty or whatever. But yeah, so I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
You can download them quickly, and since you can segment your downloads and start playing right away, that's kind of neat.
It's very next gen.
It is. It is.
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to be checking out Playroom. We'll be right back.